First off, the pros and cons of doing business in Hong Kong.
Well, obviously, we are very pleased with the change in Hong Kong environment in terms of approach to digital assets. There has been a new framework that came out from the regulatory perspective, and this recent conditional approval of Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs is a sign of a general support for the market development in Hong Kong. So we're quite pleased with it.
And how does Hong Kong compare to a market like Korea, for instance, where there is great interest in crypto among retail investors, and you're launching your app at the end of the month? How do you expect to do in a market like Korea?
Korea has historically been very difficult for overseas players to enter, and we've spent almost 2 years preparing for launch. It's obviously one of the largest crypto markets globally, with a very, very high adoption rate and extremely active retail user base. So we'll see how we'll do. We are in it for the long term. We've entered through acquisition of 2 licenses and a very prolonged product build out. So we'll do our best to provide a competitive product offering to Korean consumers.
But in terms of products and services, what can be expected after launching your app?
Right, we will give, our mission is to provide access to digital assets on a global level, and doing it in a regulatory compliant manner. So users in Korea can expect us to continue in this fashion, being the trusted place where they could trade crypto, and a good selection of it. Further down the road, we are very well known for our crypto card program. We are the largest Visa crypto card program globally. We will do our best to launch it in Korea locally as soon as possible.
Kris, I want to talk about the spot Bitcoin ETF. There was bigger than expected demand for it. What assumption are you making about appetite going forward and the long-term impact that may have?
I think structurally, it's a very good setup. You've got daily large-scale inflows, and this is against the backdrop of Bitcoin halving coming in a couple of days, which will reduce the supply side further. So I think structurally, this is well positioned. Obviously, Bitcoin and crypto right now in general is part of the global financial system. So we are not completely disconnected from what's happening in equities, for example, and what's happening with monetary policy or with what's happening in the geopolitical environment. So I think there's a general consolidation phase going on right now, which is similar to the previous cycles. And I expect pretty decent action within the 6 months following the Bitcoin halving.
Do you see any change in terms of the crypto market structure on the back of that nod to that ETF?
Definitely. Those are flows that were previously not present. So I would say that probably the proportion of Bitcoin prices being driven by retail activity or small investor activity versus institutions is changing during this cycle. And the things that we should look forward to is the decision making on Bitcoin ETFs and perhaps some other cryptocurrency ETFs, or even cryptocurrency basket ETFs in the future, because again, this may strengthen the flows.
Kris, you talked about that Bitcoin halving expected to happen in April. I'm just wondering how much impact that may have, given the kind of demand we're seeing for that ETF of late. Might that take away some of the impact?
I would say that this just improves the overall situation, because you've got less Bitcoin coming into the market that is being sold by the miners, and you're just cutting this in half. So it won't make a difference over a day or 2 or a week, but over a period of 6 months, it makes a substantial difference. So I think this is a net very positive development for the market. One has to always remember that there is this buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing. So as we approach this date, there may be some selling coming out.
Right, and we're seeing an easing of Bitcoin prices right now, below 64,000 as we speak. I'm just wondering, do you see the rally continuing? What might lead Bitcoin higher from here?
Well, again, I think this is a period of consolidation. We've seen exactly this, in fact, happening in the previous cycles. So this is an asset that you want to hold for a very long period of time. You should measure it in years, if not decades. So I strongly recommend everybody who has this kind of time horizon to add it to their portfolio. And I personally expect great performance within the next 6 months.
In terms of your own strategy at Crypto.com, how does it look like for the next 6-12 months?
For us, this is all about scaling the size of the platform. We are approaching 100 million users, as you mentioned in the beginning. We want to hit 250 during this cycle. The retail intent so far has been muted comparing to the previous cycle. So it gives us this kind of notion that we are still early into, those are the early innings of the cycle. So it's all about scaling. And again, we've almost completed our regulatory licensing puzzle in all major markets. So we're ready to grow the business as fast as we possibly can.
At a time when we're seeing pretty aggressive strategies from Chinese exchanges, how might you counter that?
We have a completely different strategy, and we are building this business for it to last decades, right? So from day one, we've KYC'd every single customer on the platform. We followed very stringent rules regarding anti-money laundering. So this is our way of building this business. And we believe that if the market is supposed to reach 1 billion people, it has to be done properly on a sound foundation of regulatory compliance. So we pair this with pretty decent efforts in terms of brand building, because you want to be the trusted place for people to interact with cryptocurrency. So I think our strategy does not change. Some of our competitors that pursued somewhat aggressive tactics are now in hot water, and we are perfectly positioned to take advantage of that.
Kris, given your expansion plans and your long-term plans as well, I mean, what are your hiring plans on the back of that, and which markets are likely to drive growth?
Right. So we are hiring right now, but we're doing so very thoughtfully and strategically. We've got a couple hundred openings in the company outside of the customer service, which we scaled by about 700 people in the last couple of months. But outside of customer service, to meet the new demand and increase traffic, we are doing so very thoughtfully and strategically. Again, we want to make sure that we remain a very nimble, fast-moving company in this rapidly developing space, so that we can capture all the opportunities. We don't want to be, a very large, slow-moving corporate. That's just not how we want to build a company.
Any plans for sports sponsorship? Will you continue with F1, UFC, for instance?
Yeah, those are great properties and great partners that we have multi-year relationships with. I think we've already established ourselves as a globally recognized, trusted brand. We will again be very selective moving forward. Frankly speaking, not all of these partnerships move the needle for a brand like Crypto.com. So we want to make sure that whatever we choose to do is true to us and what we stand for as a brand.